welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news today. And we're going to be talking about Jadon Sancho, some reports saying maybe Jadon Sancho could sign after the England games, after the international break. Manchester United look to, get that deal done, and my thoughts on all the Sancho news. Some stuff's come out from reliable journalists like Dean Jones from BR, Christian Folk and more, so I'm going to talk about that and give you the latest on the Jadon Sancho situation. We're also going to be talking about Chris Smalling and his possible exit, as well as news that Manchester United have put in a bid for the Spanish left-back Reguilon. However, it's not come from the most credible source, so I'd probably debunk that for now, but I will get into those stories. But first things first, I want to talk about Dylan Levitt and Daniel James and how they were really good last night for Wales. But first things first, please hit that like button, subscribe down below, share this video, and let's get into it. Now, Wales and Spain played last night. David De Gea was in action, Daniel James was in action, and Dylan Levitt got his first senior start, or his first senior game for Wales, Giggsy giving Levitt a go, and Levitt played in the holding midfielder position and he did a really good job. He had like 4 tackles, 4 clearances. He looked really good, and I think what we've learned from that is Dylan Levitt is a good young player and I think he really needs a loan. We saw him against Astana. For me, he was man of the match when he played Astana last season in his first official game. We saw him at Wales yesterday. I didn't actually see the full game, but I watched highlights of it. From what I've read of it, Dylan Levitt was again effective, and I think Dylan Levitt is a player that would really benefit from a championship loan. A lot of players are saying, could he go into that Matic role? I think he probably need 1 or 2 seasons on loan, but he does look like a really promising young player, and I always thought he was a really promising young player, and I think that's really good. David De Gea was excellent for Spain last night, practically earned them a point. And Daniel James was man of the match for Wales. He looked really good. And the thing about Daniel James is he's a £15 million championship signing. There is some quality in him. We saw when he first joined the quality that Dan James has in him. Although, 1, he's better on the left than the right, hence why we need Sancho. But 2, we know with Dan James that he is a player that has that quality in him. He just burns out quickly. He needs to be moulded into the squad. And I think this coming season could be a big season for Dan James, because I think he's had a season to get used to the Premier League, to mould in. He's had a season now to refresh and get back to the, August Dan James that we saw. And we saw how good Dan James could actually be and what kind of player he could be. But he is a £15 million championship signing, so don't slate him or anything like that. But, Dan James played well and he could get some confidence from that, and we could see a much more improved Dan James. Now, I want to get into the transfer news, and first things first, I'm going to start with the Jadon Sancho news, because we all want Jadon Sancho at Manchester United, and if you don't want Jadon Sancho at Manchester United, you're mad. Okay, Dean Jones from Bleachers Report, pretty reliable, gets their information a lot from Manchester United itself, have come out and said Manchester United and Borussia Dortmund have agreed to go about negotiations for Jadon Sancho in a more respectful manner, hence the recent quietness within the media. United and Dortmund want to resolve agent fees and then bid the asking price. Now, I said in yesterday's video, when I talked about some news that came out from James Cooper, I said that I think with the Manchester United and Sancho deal, stuff is still going on. We're just trying to keep it out of the media, keep it quiet. Because obviously we kept that Donny van de Beek news really quiet until it sort of happened. And I think with the Sancho news, we're probably working on it right now, but we're going to try and keep it quiet, keep it out of the media till it's close. I feel the Sancho deal could be like, we could just get surprised next week. It'd be like Sancho bid made, and then the next day Sancho bid accepted, then the next day Sancho medical. It could be one of those where like the story dies for a couple of weeks, because it has died for a couple of weeks. Then all of a sudden next week after the internationals, I can see something happening with this Sancho deal. Because I know that Manchester United really want Jadon Sancho. I know we're still working on him, and I'm pretty sure we're doing stuff quietness without the media getting involved, which is really good, because I think the media at the start of the deal was quite hype and distraction, and I think we've gone quiet about it. And I think next week, after Sancho's played his internationals, this story could come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden 3 days later the deal's done. But we don't really know with the Sancho deal. But the other thing that does confuse me is we've had, I think, James Cooper and Dean Jones saying, oh, it's about agent fees and stuff. But Fabrizio Romano, who is the most reliable journalist out there, says that personal terms are agreed and all that, and that it's about the fee and the bid. So you've got 2 reliable journalists who get the information from Manchester United saying it's about agent fees, not the bid. But you've got Fabrizio Romano saying it's about, personal terms are agreed, it's about the fee. And realistically, I'm going to believe Fabrizio Romano and Christian Folk, because I think the British journalists get what Woodward and Manchester United feed them, and Manchester United might not want people knowing that, whereas Christian Folk and Fabrizio Romano, I think, are a little bit more reliable in that case. And I do think with Jadon Sancho, it is all down to Manchester United paying the money to get Jadon Sancho. I think we're probably, you know, stuff is still going on, we're still in talks, you know, we've not dropped our interest in Sancho, we know that. We still really want Sancho. I think it's just getting the deals done, agreeing with Dortmund, and I think it all really comes down to, will the Glazers pay the money for Jadon Sancho? And I think at the end of the day, it's too big of a loss not to get Jadon Sancho for the Glazers, because Sancho, the number 7 shirt, is going to bring in so much more money. He's 20, we'll probably profit from him if we sell him on. So I think with the Sancho deal, I'm confident that it'll happen. I don't think anything will happen in the next week because Sancho's at internationals, but I feel like Manchester United won't let him go. We know how badly Manchester United want him. I think that we are very interested in trying to get Jadon Sancho over the line. So I stay confident in that we'll get Jadon Sancho. It might not be till end of September, but I just feel like we could get Jadon Sancho. I feel like the deal's gone quiet, and I think that could be a good sign in a sense, because maybe we're just getting down to business, not this media PR kind of stuff. Christian Falk came out and said, Borussia Dortmund don't need to sell Jadon Sancho or need money, but they have made a promise to Jadon Sancho and said if United bring 120 million euros, you can go. And this is kind of what we know. We know that if Manchester United pay that 120 million euros, Dortmund will let him go. So when Saul came out and said Sancho's going at no cost, that was just all face. We know that if we give Dortmund 120 million euros, Sancho is ours. I mean, Sancho's agreed personal terms. It's just down to us giving Dortmund the money. Dortmund say they're in no position to sell. They'll stay strong on that, but I do think, you know, they've spent a lot of money. They've not really sold anyone. Coronavirus loss. I do think Dortmund kind of need to sell a player or two. So what James Cooper said regarding Jadon Sancho the other day was, Manchester United are desperate to bring Jadon Sancho to Old Trafford. The higher ups at Manchester United don't feel as if a fee structure with Dortmund is an issue, and United could take care of the fee, but Sancho's wage demands and agent fees are the issue, which really contradicts Fabrizio Romano saying personal terms are agreed. So it's a hard one to stand, but I'm going to stand with Fabrizio Romano and believe that personal terms are agreed. However, James Cooper is saying, you know, paying the money for Sancho isn't the issue, but the agent fees are. So, you know, Fabrizio Romano and James Cooper are contradicting themselves. However, you know, what James Cooper has said is, you know, the fee isn't the issue. Man United can pay the fee, and he gets that from Manchester United, which then gives me confidence that Manchester United will go and pay that fee for Jadon Sancho. The next story is about Reguilon, I don't even know how you pronounce his name, but I'm going to cover the story quickly because these stories have come from like Marca and Sport and AS, and I don't think there's anything in it because it's only coming from tier 4 journalists. As I said, I'd like Reguilon, I'd like to see him, but don't get excited. I'm going to read out what was said anyway, but don't get excited because it's not reliable. I do think it's a load of crap, but I hope there's something in it, but I think it's a load of crap because it's not come from any tier 1 or tier 2 sources. Sport came out and said, Manchester United have made a €30 million bid for Real Madrid left-back Sergio Reguilon, who was on loan at Sevilla last season. I mean, maybe we've made that bid, but it's come from Sport. I don't think there's anything in it. I wish it was true. I'd like to see him at Manchester United. I think he's a great left-back, but I don't think we're going to go for a left-back. And it's come from an unreliable source. So just take that story with a pinch of salt, because I'd like it to happen, but it's like the Mirror reporting it, basically. And the last story is basically Fabrizio Romano saying that Chris Smalling is very close to joining AS Roma. Now we know that Chris Smalling was probably going to go to Roma. Manchester United will probably get a good £15 million for Chris Smalling. I think Chris Smalling is a decent player. He did well in Roma on loan and he's off to Roma on a permanent. The deal is very close according to Fabrizio Romano, so it looks like Chris Smalling is leaving. Let me know your thoughts on all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news today. And if you have not already, please hit that like button, subscribe down below, share this video. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.